Hey, fam, it's your boy. Oh, man, I need a haircut. Let's see, 5.3, solve equations using the distributive property. Now we're getting into the real stuff, guys. Um, okay, so there's a lot of text on this one, so you can pause it and read it if you want to. But we got 6 friends. They want to go jet skiing. The total cost for the adventure is $683.88, including a $12 fee per person to rent flotation vests, so they don't drown. Marcella says that they can use the equation 6r plus 12 equals 683.88 to find the jet ski rental cost, r per person. Julie says they need to use the equation 6 times r plus 12, you'll notice the parentheses here, equals 683.88. Okay. Whose equation accurately represents the situation and construct an argument to support your response? And then what might have been the error in thinking for the inaccurate equation. So we got 2 equations. We got to compare them. So we got this one right here, the 6r plus 12. So however many people it is, right? Yeah, well, 6, right? And we're looking for the cost, right? So that's the cost, r per person. So we got 6 people times the rental cost and then plus 12. Now, the problem I see with this is that $12, there's actually 6 people. So each person needs to pay that $6. So if we can take a look at this one, then we have this 6 people also being multiplied by that 12 right there. So that's going to account for that rental cost for the flotation vests, right? So we would say, how did I put this in my answer key here? So Julia, right? Julia says that. Yeah. Julia is correct. Okay. And then the argument would be because, B/C. That's how I say because. Each person needs to pay the rental fee for the flotation vests. Not just one person. Okay. And again, my thinking for that is because it literally says $12 fee per person, right? So 6 people need to be paying that $12 fee, right? So in reality, if we were going to use this equation, it should actually be 6r plus 6 times 12, which give us 72. Okay. If that were the case, then this would also be correct. But this is what actually gives us 6r plus 12 once we multiply or distribute that 6 to the parentheses. So one might have been the error in the thinking for the inaccurate question. What did I say here? The error in thinking is not realizing the need. Yeah. The error could be not realizing that 6 people, that each person needs to pay the rental fee. Because there are 6 people and they each need a vest, right? Because you don't want any of them to drown. So anyway. Oh man, each of the graphic novels in Chen's collection increased in value by 350 in the last few years. If each graphic novel has the same value, what was the original value of one graphic novel? Graphic novel is just a collection of comic books. Okay. So you got 10 different graphic novels. Each book increased by 350. And we've got the total value here as $75. Okay. So we can use this. It's called an area model to kind of set up our equation for us, right? I think, what did I use? G as my, yeah. So I used G as the variable. This is the original value. Yep. Original value of each book. Valor original. There are 10 of them. If you don't know how to make that fancy thing, don't worry about it. You can just write 10 over here. This is the number of graphic novels. I'm just going to write novels because I'm running out of room here. Okay. And then this 350 right here, or this area right here, is the increase in value. Okay. And then the total is 75 books right there. So this kind of whole thing equals that 75. So we can actually use this to put our equation together, right? You take this and you multiply it by this. Yeah, think about it if we're finding the area of this square, right? We would take this 10 and we would multiply it by this g and this 350. And you might be like, well, that g and that 350, how do I combine them? Well, we know that the original value is increased by 350. So we're just adding them. So we're going to take this 10 and then multiply by that g plus 350 and set it equal to 75. And there is our equation. So now we're using something called the distributive property. Sorry, probably should have said that at the beginning. We're solving equations using the distributive property, okay? You only use this when you have parentheses, right, or grouping symbols, okay? So the idea here is that you take the number outside of the parentheses and then you multiply it by all the terms inside the parentheses. In this case, I'm multiplying two terms, but there could be more than one. It could be one term, two terms, three terms, or more terms, right? So the idea here is we take that 10 and we multiply that by that g, we get 10g. We take that 10, we multiply it by 350. All that happens when we multiply it by 10 is the decimal moves over 1, and it becomes 35. We haven't touched the 75, so it just brings down, or it just comes down. Now, this is at this point is a two-step equation, which you guys have had some practice with. We got to take care of this 35 first. So this is a positive 35. We're adding it. So the opposite or the inverse of addition is subtraction. So we subtract here. We end up with 10g equals 40. And then now we have 10 times g right here. Remember, when they're right next to each other, a number and a letter, that's multiplication. So the inverse or opposite of multiplication is division. So we divide by 10, and 40 divided by 10 is 4. So what was the original value of one graphic novel? We would say the original value of one novel was $4. Well, let's do the full thing. One graphic novel. There you go. That's your answer. Okay. Now this is just kind of another very similar question to the previous one, right? A collector has a box of 32 figurines. The value of each figurine increased by 232 over the past year. The box of figurines is now worth 114.24. What was the original cost, X, of one figurine? So we do the same thing, right? If I do an area model, I've got this area model right here. The original value, we'll just call it X, okay? And then there are 32 of them. I'm not going to split it up into 32 segments. So just assume that that's 32. And then increased in value by 232. Boom. Okay. We're going to add that together, and then it's equal to 114.24. Okay. So the idea here is we take that 32, and we're going to multiply it by that X plus 232. And then we set it equal to the current value of it, that 114.24. Okay. And I'm going to distribute here. Again, distribute just means multiply. I'm going to use a calculator for this. This is the Desmos Scientific Calculator. It is clear. It is clear. It is free, and it is a great calculator. So 32 times X. I think here I can actually flip that, and that shows up better. Okay. There we go. So I take that 32, I multiply it by that X, that gives me 32X. Now I take that 32 and I multiply it by 232. I end up with 74.24. Okay. And I take that 74.24. It's being added, so I want to subtract it to get rid of it to the other side. Cancels out there. Now I'm left with 32x equals 114.24 minus 74.24. You can do that in your head. Cool. Otherwise, use a calculator. 114.24 minus 74.24 gives you 40. Okay. Then we divide by 32. Then we get... no, my bad. That's actually totally wrong. I'm doing 40 divided by 32. Sorry. There we go. That's much better. Okay. So we get x equals $1.25. Okay. And you'll notice this calculator, right? It keeps your operations in here, not like the regular iPhone calculator, which deletes them each time. We got the Desmos Scientific Calculator, DESMOS. So now we got to put together a word problem, or since it is a word problem, we got to put together a sentence, right? We would say each figurine originally cost $1.25. Okay. All right. Now, this is just a straight up equation, no word problem. So all we're going to do is distribute. This case is interesting because we are using a negative number. Okay. So when you distribute or when you multiply by a negative number, I have a negative 5 here and I have a positive x. When that happens, the result, the answer is negative. Okay. So then negative 5 times 30, that also becomes negative. That should actually be 150. My bad. And we bring that down, that negative 17. So now we've got this minus 150. We're going to add 150 to the other side. So I've got negative 17 plus 150 is equal to 133. Again, if you can't do that in your head, just do it with a calculator. Okay. Now I've got this negative 5x right here. You might be tempted to think that this is subtraction because of the negative. So you'd want to add that 5 and get to 138. This is not the case. Okay. It is a negative 5 being multiplied by that x. So rather than adding, you're going to divide, because that's the opposite of multiplication, by negative 5. Now, whenever you're dividing a negative by a negative, right, the negatives cancel out and you get a positive. So this gives us 1, positive 1, and positive 1x is the same thing as just x. Okay. And now this is going to give us a negative 133 fifths. And then, we can do a couple things here. We can take that, we can convert it into a decimal, 133 divided by 5. And again, that's going to be a negative. So we get like negative 26.6. We could also long divide it. Gosh, am I going to do long division here? Barf. 2, 10. Gets us to 33. That's 6. That's 30. Subtract. Now we've got 3/5. Okay. Or negative 26 and 3/5. So a couple different ways you can show that, right? There you go. Okay. Oh, the cheerleading squad received a quarter of the total sales of foam fingers and pom-poms at a pep rally. The squad received a total of 136.75. What was the value of the pom-pom sales P? Okay, so we know that it's 258 in sales for foam fingers, and we're looking for the pom-poms right here. So we've already got the area model set up. So I can take this 1/4, and I can multiply by that P plus 258 and set it equal to the total sales of 136.75. I'm going to distribute this P here. Okay. It becomes 1/4 P plus 1/4 of 258, which I'm just going to use a calculator for. I can say 1/4 times 258 gets us to 64.50. Okay. Equals 136.75. Okay. I am keeping this 0 in here rather than saying 64.5 because this is all about money. And so when you're talking money in terms of dollars anyway, right, you have 2 decimals, right? So this is adding that 64.50. So we need to cancel it out by subtracting. Okay. 136.75. Can you see that? 136, gosh, 75 minus 64.50, 72.25. Okay. Now we got to get rid of this 1/4. So there's a couple ways we can approach this, right? It's a fraction, so we can multiply by the reciprocal. Basically, we flip it around and multiply it. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. And then we do the same thing. Multiply by 4/1 right here. Okay. Which, what am I trying to say here? Right. 1/4 P is the same thing as P over 4 equals 72.25, right? So in reality, we're just multiplying by 4. I mean, it's literally the exact same thing, but it's kind of just 2 approaches to the problem. So we've got that 72.25 times 4 gets us to 289. So what are we looking for? The value of the pom pom sales, right? So pom pom sales were worth, or let's the value, because that's how the question is asked. The value of pom pom sales was $289. Kabooyah. There you go.